The Torah is not a book just to read, it's a book to live by. I'd like to discuss an incredible story in this week's Parsha about Jacob and how he wrestles with the angel. We can learn so much from that and how to apply it to our lives. Let's talk about crisis. When there's a loss of a job, loss of assets, or you're brutally embarrassed in public or shamed, and you feel like a failure. These are terrifying moments, ladies and gentlemen. And life seems to be bereft of meaning, and you feel like you can't go on. Now's the time that we can retrace the steps of our ancestors and learn from them. They were humans like us. They also had their challenges. They had their fears and their doubts. The Torah tells us, "Ma'aseh avot siman lebanim." The lives and lessons of the fathers and mothers are perfect examples for us on how to learn how to deal with crisis. They were normal people with problems just like ours. And let's talk about Jacob. It says in this week's portion, he was left alone. He prepared for the confrontation with Esav. It tells us three ways. He prepared with diplomacy, which was gifts, lavish gifts that he sent ahead to give Esav in order to calm his temper. He also prepared for war, and he davened and he prayed. But there was one thing he didn't prepare for, that he was going to have a confrontation with an unnamed adversary. And what's the lesson there? Crisis jumps on us. It's not preemptive. We can't prepare for it. And that's what happens. In the 21st century, we've learned human beings can conquer disease, and they can conquer all types of issues, and they can predict everything. But we can't predict the future and what tomorrow will bring. And so he wrestles with the angel. He's an unnamed angel. He wrestles with him, and the rabbis tell us he's not wrestling with an angel. It talks about himself. He was wrestling with his own fears. Jacob has fears. He fears his brother. And this is what happens to us. We have our own fears. And the rabbis tell us if he wins the battle within himself, if we can win the battle within ourselves, we'll win the battle outside. But if we lose the battle within ourselves, we will lose the battle outside. The late Dr. Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning in the Holocaust, was an inmate in Auschwitz. He discovered something which was amazing. Anybody who had a will to live survived the concentration camps. But if you lost the will to live, you died. So what did he do? He would talk to fellow inmates and ask them, do you have a dream that it's unfulfilled? Do you have something, a goal that you once had? If you think about it and keep it in your mind, that's how you'll survive. And that's what we learned from King David. He said, Hashem li lo ira, ma yaseh li adam. God is with me, I shall not fear. What can man do to me? The Rashbam, Rashi's grandson, says something fantastic, an extraordinary interpretation. He says Jacob wanted to run away from the confrontation, and God sent the angel to say to him, nothing doing. You're sitting there, you're going to wrestle with this angel, you will conquer your fears. And then we see a timeless message from the Torah. If you can conquer your fears, you will win. Because the very next day, what happened? Esav sees Jacob, and he embraces him and he hugs him. Sometimes it just calls for us to conquer their fears, to deal with the test that God puts in front of us, and the problem just melts away. Going on with the story, it says the sun rose and Jacob was limping. What's the lesson from that? We see that in life, crises are real, but sometimes you take a hit, you take a limp, you have a scar. But if you have a scar and you limp and you won, it's better than not engaging in the battle at all and just, walking away from it. And lastly, at the end, he says to the angel, I won't let you go until you bless me. What Jacob was saying is, I'm not going to leave this situation until I see something positive from it, until I can extract a positive lesson. How often in our lives have we had horrible things happen that we thought were terrible, but when we did the look back, we saw it was a blessing in disguise. And ladies and gentlemen, to wrap it up, that's the lesson. Crises, we can't predict them. We can't sometimes avoid them, but we can learn from the fathers how to deal with them. Not just how to deal with them, how to thrive. And in that merit, may we always be able to be victorious in all our internal struggles and be able to have only success. Shabbat Shalom.